In this new age of AI, there's a question that's just echoing through every single school, every university, every boardroom, really.
What is the single most important skill for a teacher today? Is it their ability to teach a subject? Or is it their ability to actually do the thing they teach? This question, well, it has pretty much split the entire education world right down the middle.
So on one side, you have position A. These folks believe teachers should be master facilitators, brilliant designers of learning experiences. They'd say you don't need to be an expert coder to teach coding, you just need to be an expert at teaching. But then you have the other side, position B, arguing that no, teachers have to be expert practitioners themselves. You just can't teach what you haven't actually done. And you can see the logic in both, right?
But what if this whole debate, this entire argument, is built on a shaky foundation? What if we've been asking the completely wrong question this whole time?
That's the big idea we're going to dig into. What if this is a false binary? It's not an either-or. The research strongly suggests that possessing a skill and teaching that skill aren't two competing things. Actually, they're cause and effect.
So how does that work? Well, it all comes down to something incredibly powerful: the power of modeling. Turns out, the best way to teach a really complex skill isn't just to talk about it, it's to show it.
And this isn't just some feel-good idea. There's a really solid research framework behind it called cognitive apprenticeship. Think of it like a master carpenter teaching an apprentice. The real lesson isn't just seeing the finished chair. The magic is in seeing all the invisible thinking that went into it. The judgment calls, the mistakes, the intuition. And the only way to teach that is to make your thinking visible. So this process pretty much always unfolds in 4 key stages, and it has to start with modeling. The expert shows how it's done, literally thinking out loud. Only then can you move on to coaching and scaffolding. But here's the kicker. If that first step, modeling, is missing, because the teacher has never really done the task, the whole learning process just crumbles before it even gets started.
This really gets to the heart of it all. You can't show a student how to wrestle with a tough, ambiguous problem if you've only ever read about it in a textbook. It's the lived experience that makes the lesson authentic and makes the learning actually stick.
Okay, so if teachers need to model these skills, the next obvious question is, which skills matter most right now, in the age of AI? Well, the research points to 5 core competencies. You can think of them as a kind of human operating system, the essential skills for thriving in a world where information is basically free, but good judgment is priceless. And here they are, asking fantastic questions, being able to critically evaluate all the noise out there, making sound ethical judgments, learning how to adapt when you don't have all the answers, and maybe most importantly, keeping us, the humans, in charge of our technology. These are the things you just can't outsource to an algorithm. And here is a perfect example of why that personal experience is so crucial. A teacher who has only read about misinformation will say something generic like, remember to check your sources. But a teacher who has actually been fooled by it, well, they can say this. They can share the real, messy, embarrassing story of being wrong, and that is a lesson a student will never forget. Now, does this mean every teacher needs to be a world-class, Nobel Prize-winning expert in everything? Of course not. That's not realistic. The research actually points to a much more practical standard, a goal that's achievable for any educator. It's called sufficient embodiment. So let's be super clear about what this is and what it isn't. What it is having lived experience. It's about having personally made mistakes, having navigated those tricky ethical gray areas yourself. What it is not is being a technical master of every new AI tool. It's not about being a power user. It's about having enough personal practice to model the thinking, not just the button pushing. So why is this so incredibly urgent? Right here, right now. It's because we are all, whether we realize it or not, living in the age of cognitive offloading. This is such a key concept. It's our brain's natural tendency to delegate the hard mental work to a tool like an AI. When an answer is instant and seems plausible, we are just way less likely to question it, to dig deeper, or to fire up our own critical thinking muscles.
And the early data on this is, well, it's a little concerning. This Microsoft research survey found a pretty clear pattern. The more people relied on AI to do their work, the less they reported using their own critical thinking skills. That convenience can just lull us into a kind of mental sleepwalking.
So this is the absolute bottom line. If a teacher has never felt that powerful, seductive pull to just accept the first answer from an AI, how in the world can they recognize it and guide a student who's doing that exact same thing? The simple answer is they can't. They're blind to the very problem they're supposed to be solving. And when teachers try to teach these skills without having practiced them, the results are almost guaranteed. Inquiry just becomes a performance, a checklist to get a grade. Ethics becomes some policy that nobody actually believes in. And worst of all, students learn that what the teacher says and what the teacher does are two completely different things.
I mean, this table just lays out the difference so clearly. You have the authentic facilitator who models from real experience and can handle real-world uncertainty. And then you have the theoretical facilitator who's really just delivering instructions from a curriculum they haven't lived. And trust me, students know the difference. They always do.
So you see, the debate was never really about being a practitioner versus being a facilitator. That was the false binary. The real choice is between being an authentic facilitator or a theoretical one.
The chain of logic is just so clear and powerful. To cultivate these critical skills in our students, we have to be authentic. And to be authentic, we have to have practice. It's a straight line.
And that leaves us with a final question. And it's not just for teachers, it's for every single one of us. In a world that is so eager to offload its thinking, as technology makes it easier and easier, modeling what it means to be a curious, critical, and ethical human has never been more vital. So, how will you choose to do it?